Welcome back, learner, to today's custom-tailored deep dive. I'm your host, and I'm joined by our resident expert. You know that feeling when you're sitting in a room, maybe it's like a high-stakes meeting or a really tense family gathering, and everyone around you is just locked in this intense, serious argument over something that's honestly entirely trivial.
Oh, yeah. Just completely worked up over nothing.
Right. They're debating the semantics of some tiny detail, and they're getting so angry, and you're just sitting there looking around thinking, am I the only one who sees how absurd this is?
Like you're in the Twilight Zone.
Exactly. You start wondering, am I crazy, or is everyone else in this room completely out of their minds?
It is an incredibly isolating feeling, you know?
Right.
You're physically in the room, but mentally and philosophically, you are on a completely different planet.
Yeah, totally.
And the harder you try to explain your perspective, the more they look at you like you've completely lost your grip on reality.
Right. You become the crazy one because you just refuse to play by their rules.
So today's mission is to explore that exact feeling, but from a deeply profound spiritual perspective. We're going to see how we can completely flip the script on society's definition of sanity.
Such a great topic.
It really is. Our source text for this is an excerpt from Divine Madness and the Wisdom of Self-Realization by the 15th century mystic poet Bhagat Kabir Ji. Specifically, we're looking at a piece from Rag Bilaaval, section 855.
Which I have to say is just a phenomenal piece of poetry and philosophy. And before we go any further, it's really worth noting what a rag actually is because it frames everything we're about to discuss.
Oh, right, sure.
So a rag is a traditional melodic framework in Indian classical music. It sets a specific mood, a specific time of day, a very specific emotional landscape.
So it's not just text on a page.
Right, exactly. This text wasn't meant to be read silently in a dusty library. It was meant to be sung, felt, and experienced viscerally.
That makes a huge difference. It really does. And that's crucial because Kabir doesn't just tolerate being called insane by society. He actively embraces it. He pins it to his chest like a badge of honor and then proceeds to dismantle the very foundation of what his society considers smart or sane.
Okay, let's unpack this because the way Kabir sets up this contrast is brilliant. He starts right out of the gate by rejecting the traditional markers of intelligence and status.
He really goes after them.
He does. The text opens with these lines. He says, "I do not read books of knowledge, and I do not understand the debates." Instead, he says he has gone insane, chanting and hearing the glorious praises of the Lord.
What's fascinating here is the very deliberate line Kabir is drawing between intellectualizing a concept and actually experiencing it.
Yeah.
To really understand the weight of this, we have to look at the religious landscape of 15th century India.
Okay, set the scene for us.
Well, it was an era where religious and philosophical authority was tightly held by scholars. These were people who spent their entire lives reading texts, analyzing scriptures, engaging in complex, highly structured theological debates.
Like professional debaters.
Exactly. That was the elite path. That was how you proved your spiritual worth. You won the argument. You dominated the discourse.
So, learner, think of an incredibly prestigious, highly competitive academic environment today. Imagine someone who's, fought their way into a top-tier PhD program.
Right, they've made it to the top.
Yeah, and they're surrounded by brilliant minds reading thousands of pages of dense theory, arguing in seminars for hours about the minutiae of human behavior or spiritual philosophy, and then one day, this person just stands up, leaves their books on the desk, walks out the door, and decides to spend their life simply living the philosophy.
Just completely dropping out.
Exactly. Maybe they go serve the poor or just sit in nature, completely immersed in the raw experience of being alive rather than the theory of it. To all those academics left in the seminar room, that person has clearly snapped. They've thrown their life away.
And what happens to that academic dropout? Society immediately writes them off as a tragedy. They pity them.
Yeah, like, oh, what a waste of potential.
Right. But Kabir is looking right at that societal pity and just laughing at it. Those academics are trapped in the debates. They're intensely studying the menu, analyzing the font and the paper quality, while Kabir has decided to actually eat the meal.
I love that analogy. And the mechanism behind why he leaves the debates is really important too. He isn't saying, well, I'm not smart enough for this. He's saying the debates themselves are fundamentally flawed as a spiritual tool.
That's the core of it right there.
Yeah.
Think about the nature of intellectual debate. It relies entirely on language, on duality, on breaking things down into opposing categories of right and wrong.
Right. There's always a winner and a loser.
Exactly. And because of that, intellectual debate actually creates doubt. There is always a counter-argument. There is always another perspective to consider, some other semantic loophole.
It never ends.
It doesn't. Kabir realizes that you can't argue your way to the absolute truth. You can't logic your way to the divine.
Oh.
So by choosing to chant and hear the praises of the Lord, he's bypassing the intellect entirely. He's choosing raw, unfiltered sensory and spiritual experience over abstract theory.
But stepping off that smart path comes with a heavy social cost, right? I mean, once you stop playing by society's rules, they don't just leave you alone, they label you.
Oh, they definitely label you.
Which is exactly what Kabir addresses next. He leans into how society views him, and his language gets incredibly sharp here. He says, "Oh, my father, I have gone insane. The whole world is sane, and I am insane."
He's really leaning into it.
He is. He goes on to say, "I am spoiled. Let no one else be spoiled like me." And later he adds that he's lost his intellect and issues this warning, "Let no one go astray in doubt like me."
It's such a great passage.
But I have to push back a little on a literal reading here. I mean, is Kabir genuinely being self-deprecating here? He keeps telling people, don't be like me. But doesn't he actually think he's the one on the right path? This feels like heavily layered sarcasm.
Oh, he's absolutely ventriloquizing the town gossip, and it is beautifully executed. You're completely right to reject a literal reading there.
Okay, good, because it sounded so sarcastic to me.
It totally is. Kabir is playfully, almost joyfully, mocking the societal view of his devotion. He's repeating what the sane people say about him as he walks down the street. You know, look at Kabir, he's spoiled, he's lost his intellect, he's on the wrong path. Keep your kids away from him.
Right. It's the 15th century equivalent of saying, oh no, whatever you do, please don't become blissfully happy and spiritually fulfilled like me. It's terrible. I highly recommend you avoid it at all costs.
Precisely. But amidst all this sarcasm, he drops a crucial, entirely sincere detail about the nature of his condition. He explains how he actually arrived at this state of so-called madness.
What does he say?
He clarifies that this wasn't an intellectual choice he made out of ego. He says, I have not made myself go insane. The Lord made me go insane. And then he delivers the key to his entire transformation. He says, the true guru has burnt away my doubt.
Burnt away my doubt. Man, that is such a vivid, violent phrase. It's not just that his doubt faded over time or that he reasoned his way out of it through those debates. It was eradicated.
Totally eradicated. And to understand the power of that phrase, we need to understand the concept of the true guru in this tradition.
Okay, what does that mean in this context?
The true guru isn't necessarily a human teacher with a long beard sitting on a mountain somewhere. It refers to the divine inner voice, the ultimate guiding truth that connects the human soul to the divine.
Oh, I see.
So when Kabir connects with this true guru, the result isn't a new piece of information to be filed away in his brain. The result is a fire.
Right, because how do we usually deal with doubt? We try to logic our way out of it. We try to gather more data, read another book, win another debate. It's like trying to put out a fire with paper.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Intellectualizing just leaves room for doubt to hide in the shadows of language. But direct, experiential realization is like fire. It consumes the doubt entirely.
There's nothing left.
Right. You can't unburn a piece of wood. Once you have tasted the reality of the divine, there is nothing left to debate. And that's where the deep irony of this section really lies.
How so?
Society looks at Kabir, sees that he isn't participating in their normal, anxious, debate-filled reality, and they conclude he's the one wandering in doubt. But Kabir knows the exact opposite is true. His doubt is ashes.
Wow.
The sane world is actually the one consumed by doubt, endlessly debating because they fundamentally lack certainty.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because since Kabir's doubt has been entirely burnt away, he now possesses this profound clarity. And with that clarity, he decides to completely flip the dictionary definition of the word madness.
He totally rewrites it.
He does. He redefines it for the reader, saying he alone is insane, who does not understand himself. When he understands himself, then he knows the one Lord.
This is the pivot.
Yeah.
This is where Kabir transitions from defending his own path to aggressively challenging the fundamental assumptions of the entire world.
Learner, imagine you're standing in a crowded mall, staring at one of those magic eye hidden image posters that were so popular back in the day.
Oh yeah, those were everywhere.
Right. It's a poster filled with chaotic, random, repeating patterns of dots and colors. If you just look at it normally, that's all you see, chaos and static. But you're supposed to stand close to it, unfocus your eyes, and look through the image.
Which is so hard to do sometimes.
It is. But imagine you've successfully unfocused your eyes, and suddenly, popping out of the chaos, you see a perfectly clear, beautiful 3D image of a sailboat. You're amazed, you're experiencing it.
You're seeing the reality of the poster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the person standing next to you can't do it. They just see the random dots. They look at you staring blankly at a wall of static, whispering about a sailboat, and they think you are absolutely crazy. They think you're hallucinating.
And what's crucial about that sailboat is you can't prove it mathematically to the person next to you. You can't win a debate about the sailboat.
No, you really can't.
The person seeing the sailboat isn't crazy. They've just shifted their focus to perceive a deeper reality that is genuinely there, hidden beneath the surface noise.
You can't argue them into seeing it. You can only tell them to relax their eyes and shift their focus. Which brings us right back to Kabir's point. He says, when he understands himself, then he knows the one Lord. The understanding of the self is the shifting of the eyes.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Kabir is making an ultimate, profound philosophical point about the nature of existence.
What's the main takeaway there?
Sanity isn't about conforming to societal norms. It's not about how much knowledge you've accumulated or how well you perform in the intellectual arenas of the day. True sanity is entirely rooted in self-realization.
It's internal.
Completely. He's declaring that if you don't know who you are at your core, if you haven't undertaken the inner journey to understand your own true nature, you are the one who is truly mad.
Wow. Even if you look perfectly normal on paper.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how normal you look to the rest of the world. It doesn't matter how prestigious your job is or how respected you are by the scholars. If you're alienated from your own true self, you're living in a state of delusion.
Which means the entire sane world, constantly running around, acquiring wealth, arguing over status, completely disconnected from their inner truth. They are the asylum.
Yes, they are locked in the illusion, staring at the static and insisting that the static is all there is.
That's a crazy thought.
And Kabir is saying that the moment you actually understand yourself, the illusion breaks. Because in understanding your true self, you inherently come to know the divine, the one Lord. The two are inextricably linked.
Right.
The macrocosm is found within the microcosm. So from Kabir's perspective, his madness is actually the ultimate awakening. He's woken up from the collective hallucination that everyone else insists is reality.
That's a heavy, beautiful realization. And it completely alters how you perceive time, too. I mean, once you realize that the normal world is actually a state of madness and true sanity is this divine connection, you don't want to wait around in the static anymore.
No, you want out.
The text actually shifts in its final section to this pressing, almost overwhelming urgency. Kabir says, "One who is not intoxicated with the Lord now shall never be intoxicated." Says Kabir, "I am imbued with the Lord's love."
This raises an important question about the mechanics of spiritual awakening in these texts.
Which is?
Why this sudden, sharp emphasis on now? He says, one who is not intoxicated now shall never be. He isn't saying, you'll eventually figure it out in a few years or when you're older and wiser. He is drawing a hard line in the sand regarding the present moment.
And notice the change in vocabulary, too. Up until now, we've been talking about being insane or spoiled, which are the negative labels society forced on him.
Right, they're labels.
But here, he introduces his own term. He uses the word intoxicated. He says, "I am imbued with the Lord's love." That feels vastly different from just being crazy.
It's a vital distinction. Both insanity and intoxication imply a loss of ordinary rational control. They both mean you're no longer operating by the strict, sober rules of the intellect, the ego, and the debates.
Okay, yeah.
But insanity is a term of lack. It implies you've lost your mind, you're broken, something is missing. Intoxication, especially in this spiritual context, is a term of overwhelming abundance.
Oh, I see.
It implies being filled up, overflowing with a substance that alters your state of being. In this case, that substance is divine love. Intoxication removes your inhibitions. It removes the social anxiety of what the scholars think of you.
It sounds incredibly freeing.
It is. It carries a tone of deep, overwhelming joy, presence, and surrender. You aren't broken. You're completely consumed.
So what does this all mean? How does a 15th century poem about divine madness translate to the modern world? I feel like Kabir's philosophy challenges the modern default setting where we treat fulfillment as like a retirement goal. We're so conditioned to treat the present moment as a waiting room for the future.
The trap of the sane world is that it always promises salvation tomorrow.
Exactly. We tell ourselves, oh, I'll focus on my inner life later when things settle down at work, or I'll pursue the thing that makes me feel truly alive once I have enough money saved up.
And it never happens.
Never. We hoard our potential for a future that isn't guaranteed while we spend the present moment engaging in the debates, the endless, exhausting societal requirements that we don't even truly believe in. Kabir is pointing out that if you don't allow yourself to connect with your true nature now, you're cultivating a habit of delay that you will never break.
Because later is just an intellectual concept created by the mind to keep you trapped in the debates. The intellect loves the future, because the future is a hypothetical space where the intellect can plan and worry. But intoxication, that visceral, overflowing experience of love and self-understanding, can only happen in the present tense.
You can't be theoretically intoxicated tomorrow.
Exactly.
Right.
You can only be intoxicated right now.
Mhm.
If you wait for the world to give you permission to be deeply, radically alive, you'll die waiting. The world is never going to give you permission because the world thinks the state you're seeking is madness.
You just have to be willing to step out of line right now without their permission. Man, this deep dive has taken us on such a profound arc. We started with Kabir happily, almost defiantly, accepting society's label of being insane because he chose chanting over the hollow prestige of debating.
Which was so radical.
It really was. We saw him playfully use sarcasm to highlight the absolute absurdity of a world that thinks spiritual devotion is a sign of being spoiled.
Yeah.
From there, he completely redefined sanity, declaring that true madness is simply a lack of self-awareness. And finally, he left us with that burning call to become intoxicated with divine love in the present moment, refusing to wait for a tomorrow that never comes.
It's a total dismantling of the ego and societal expectations, and it's executed flawlessly in just a few lines.
It's incredible.
And before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, learner. It builds on that concept of the true guru burning away Kabir's doubt. We explored how this eradication of doubt is what left him looking entirely insane to the outside world.
Right.
This implies something quite challenging about human nature. To the average person, true, unwavering certainty looks exactly like madness. We're so accustomed to anxiety, second-guessing, and endless debate that we literally don't know how to process someone who is simply at peace. We assume they must be delusional. So the question for you to explore on your own is this. If you ever undertake that inner journey and you find yourself entirely free of doubt about your own path, your own self-realization, are you prepared for the very real possibility that the rest of the world might look at you and think you've completely lost your mind?
That is so powerful.
And more importantly, will you have the courage to smile like Kabir and agree with them?
What a beautiful, challenging place to leave it. Remember that societal X-ray machine we use to diagnose who is sane and who is mad? Sometimes the machine itself is what's broken. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive, learner. Keep questioning the world around you, keep looking for that sailboat in the static, and we'll see you next time.